Yeah, this game's cool. It just needs more content. They still have not added the. They still have not added the third level. It's been like months now. This is like the most substantial update they've done in a while with the whole extra moveset. And it's a very fun and effective moveset too, so that helps. But they definitely need to start pushing forward, make some more content. I've played through this game like so many times, and even the Bloody Palace isn't that fun because there's not enough gear. There's not enough gear to warrant this being a roguelike, basically. I think that's just this game's only issue, in my opinion. I feel like they could just take out the roguelike stuff and just make like a straight action game, and it would be fine. Right now, there's not really enough content to really warrant it being a roguelike. It's still a very fun game to play because the combat is like the best I've played in any kind of game like this. I know the difficult melee-focused games, but it just doesn't have enough content. Yeah, I have a lot of new enemies in the Bloody Palace too that you can't fight in the base game, so I'm really not sure what's taking them so long to add the third level. I mean, it's not like they haven't been updating the game, they just haven't been adding stuff that like actually makes you want to play more. Like there's been no kind of progression towards like an ending or anything like that in months. I think they added the second level like back when I bought it, which was like February. We're in almost June now, so it's been like 4 or 5 months since they've added anything like that. And like I said, the Bloody Palace gets kind of boring because it's very long, and there's just like there's not enough build variety in this game. The equipment is basically, some of it has some interesting bonuses, but for the most part it's just whether it does more damage or has more defense. So when you have that in a roguelike setting, it doesn't really lend itself to replay value. The most fun thing in this game is the combat. I think the combat is almost perfect the way it is now. It's just they need to improve the other aspects of the game, like make more of a justification to actually have it be a roguelike. I think they could just make this be just a straight action game and it would be fine. But right now, it doesn't really feel like it's in the right genre, basically. I haven't fought this dude with the knuckles yet. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. Dude just rage quits even though he's winning. Alright. Go for it, man. Yeah, it's kind of what I mean. Like, I like the run length the way it is now. My main concern with this game is, besides them just, like, deciding to not finish it, is that they're going to make the runs super long, because that will be another big detriment to this being a roguelike. Because it already takes, like, about half an hour to get through those 2 levels. Anywhere from, I'd say, 25 to 30 minutes, roughly. And that's, like, if you explore everything like I did there. So, I think they're talking about adding, like, 5 or 6 levels. A single run's going to be, like, probably, like, an hour and a half, 2 hours. That's just way too long. And they would have to, like, seriously increase the run varieties. Right now, it's pretty bad. There aren't really any interesting item synergies or anything like that, so it basically just comes down to what set of weapons you get. I like how they have persistent unlockable weapons and items and stuff. Like, that part is cool, but right now there's basically no reason to not just have that stuff on all the time, because those things actually have some interesting affixes on them, whereas all the generic stuff you find, it's very rare you'll find anything with an affix at all, and if it is, it's usually something like 5 HP or something. So, I like this game. I love the combat. I like it better than Nioh. It feels far more responsive and less frustrating. The character is not limited by a dumb stamina system. The enemies are a lot more fair, too, in many ways. You can actually take some punishment in this game. It's still difficult. I mean, there's no checkpoints in the game, so if you die, you lose pretty much everything you have, so that's mostly where the difficulty comes from. They don't rely on typical generic action game like difficulty fair, where they make everything do jacked up damage to make it harder. They actually fight back. They don't stand there and let you kill them. They're all very active. Getting the witch time is really satisfying, because you can actually kind of get the upper hand on them, because they are always attacking. Like, they don't have stamina either, so they're always on you all the time. So you really have to learn how to crowd control and dodge attacks. But I don't really see a reason for this to be a roguelike right now. I think that's the biggest issue. It's probably made it harder for them to finish the game too, because they have to add, like, level chunks and stuff to it, whereas if this was just a basic linear game, they probably would have been done by now. I think there's only like 6 people working on this game. It's definitely a hidden gem, but I'm just curious what the direction is. Like, where are they going to take it? Because a 2-hour run with nothing to really keep you interested in playing, I think that's gonna not be the best direction to go. About an hour is like my that's like my cutoff point for a roguelike. If it's any longer than that, I get too attached and it's just frustrating to lose, and it's just not fun to me. It doesn't really have the pick up and play style that I tend to like. Like Wizard of Legend and Corridor of Time and 20XX, those can all be finished in half an hour to an hour, and that's like the perfect length for me, like 45 minutes tops. Those are the kind of roguelikes I could dump tons of time into. Any longer than that, and it's really pushing it. Even if the gameplay is really good like this, it's just, there has to be something really interesting to keep me playing. So I think I'll do a little BP right now, and that'll be it. What's up, Thurns? How are you? Yeah, solidified this game being better than Nioh because it has martial arts moveset now. I don't die in one hit. There's no stamina. Dude, if Nioh 2 was like this, man, I would love that game. A game like this with, like, more variety and a bigger budget. That would really get me interested in Nioh 2. The way it is now, like... I'm really not interested in that game. Looks like Nioh 1.5, which I guess is what people want, but I was hoping they'd be a little bit more creative with the combat. Especially if the game is still going to be like one-shot city. I don't want to play another game like that. I like how they do it in this game. It's like you can't just button mash to victory. You know, the enemies attack just as often, if not more, than in Nioh. But you can actually, like, make a freaking mistake. The game is much less punishing. The enemies can attack as often as you can. They just don't have stupid stuff like stamina preventing you from having fun. That was a mistake. Playing really bad. Seems like that move has bad tracking. That's another thing about this game too, is the I haven't really encountered too many moves that have like really bad tracking. I think that's one of the things that made the Tonfas not too viable. A lot of the best moves in the Tonfa and Nioh, they have like really shit tracking. So unless you're practically hugging the enemy, they really easily get off center and just start hitting the air and then get killed for it. Like this move here, the TTSSS, this seems to have pretty shit tracking, but everything else has never been an issue in this game. I can't recall a single time where I've just gone off center and started hitting the air. Even then it would be less punishing in this game because you can take damage, but like the tracking's actually really well done too. They just need to make it worthwhile to be a roguelike, because right now it isn't. There's no reason for this game to be a roguelike in its current state. You could easily just make it like a budget DMC with, you know, more aggressive enemies and stuff. Right now, the run variety is really bad. I'll definitely call this game out on that a lot. And you need to work on the other aspects of the game that are not the combat. Broomstick. Permanent retention. Wow. So that's a persistent item. They must have added that in the patch. Oh, this moveset's so good. Oh man, this is the best patch they've done just because they put martial arts in the game. I always liked the martial arts moveset, but there was no reason to use it over the other ones. These guys can command grab you out of anything. That's what I mean here. They don't let you just do crazy stuff. You have to actually work for it. Yeah! I'm so happy they added this. Great present to come back to, and I got back from vacation. Checked the patch notes, I was like, oh, I was just expecting like bug fixes or something. Like, nope, we added a really damn awesome martial arts moveset. None of the martial arts movesets in Dynasty Warriors have been good, except for the Sabatons. That was like the only good one. Ah, man, this combat is great. They just need to work on the rest of the game. Seems like they're kind of like slowing down. I don't know if they're having like problems with early access or something, but the updates, this is the most substantial update they've done in a long time. It's mostly just been bug fixes and stuff, and the game was kind of buggy and poorly optimized, so it's not like that was a bad thing, but I think they need to start to step it up soon, because it's just moving at a snail's pace. In this update, they added some more level chunks to the second level, which does help, but like I said before, there's really not a reason, in its current state anyway, there's no reason for this to be a roguelike. And that's kind of the issue. Like most other games that are roguelikes, at this point in early access, meaning like 4 to 6 months, they usually have like a decent foundation set down. You know, the game is still fun to play, even though it's not completely finishable. And this game is kind of like that, but it feels like there's not anywhere near enough variety. There's no item synergies or anything like that. It's not like, you know, the kind of thing where you can get like a bow staff and a knuckle that give you like, you know, increased attack speed or hit stun chance or something when you have them together. There's nothing like that in this game. There's usually almost no reason to not just put on whatever the strongest thing you have is. So for a roguelike, I think that's pretty bad. There should be like more decision making in what you pick up. And the items need to be interesting enough that you actually have to make difficult decisions and, you know, run with what you like and things like that, instead of just put on the highest numbers. Corridor of Time does a much better job of that. But I think this game just has amazing combat. I think they just need to chill on adding new like weapons and stuff and just like make more variety. I usually don't mind not having a lot of variety in an action game, but this is trying to be a roguelike and it doesn't have anywhere near the variety required to be called one of those. And there's tons of enemies in here that you can't fight in the base game, so it's not like it's a problem of just like not having any more enemies to put in the game. There's like, I think past like level 40, they're all like exclusive enemies. So those will obviously just be recycled and put into the base game, but they have not added a new level in months. I don't know, maybe they're having problems like with the roguelike variety. I'm sure they're aware that it pales in comparison to pretty much any other roguelike, besides just the core like gameplay mechanic, which is the combat. I don't think anything really compares to this game, but everything surrounding it is not as robust as it should be. I'm not really sure why they went that direction. I mean, I guess they wanted it to stick out, but the combat is already great as it is. I don't really think they needed to add a gimmick like roguelite stuff to really make it stand out. I mean, I don't play this game because it's a roguelike. I just play it because it has fun combat. I love roguelikes. I have like 20 or so roguelikes in my Steam library. I've put like a pretty decent amount of time into most of them, at least the ones I really liked. but none of them have combat on par with this. But all of those other games I would easily recommend over this one in terms of like actually being a roguelike, which means, you know, variety through runs and more interesting upgrades, things like that. I mean, bar none, this is the best. This and Card of Time, I'd say, are like my favorite roguelikes in terms of like the combat. Wizard of Legend is probably like a pretty close third. Nothing else really compares to those games in terms of having like really good skill-based, responsive combat. But the other games like Isaac and stuff are still better because they're actual roguelikes. Dive kick straight onto the green guy. That's what I like about this game, man. Like, you can get hit out of like pretty much anything you're doing, but so can the enemy, and they don't like one-shot you by sneezing on you. So if anything, it teaches you how to play better because you actually can make a mistake, but it does start to add up. So if you start playing bad, then it's really gonna mess with you. Like right now, I'm playing pretty bad. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. I'm gonna switch to something else. I already have like everything unlocked too, so that's part of the other problem with that game is the progression is very weird. Like the persistent stuff that you unlock, you have to get the next level in one run. So say you need 3 of those ambers to upgrade an ability. If you get 2 and the game ends, then you're SOL. You can't upgrade anything. So I'm kind of at the point in the game where to like get any stronger at all, like whatsoever, I have to have insane luck to get like 3 or 4 of those things at once. So that's kind of why I haven't been playing it. I basically have like a maxed out character. And there's just not enough gear in the game to really make me want to go through the rest of the BP. Also, a lot of the BP exclusive enemies don't feel as well balanced as the ones that are in the main game. The humanoid ones actually, I think they have pretty balanced movesets and tells on their attacks and everything. But like some of those, like that big dog thing, like he has like no tell on anything he does, and his hurt box is really weird. I guess that's why they're only in the Bloody Palace, so that they can balance them out later, but that's basically the only content I have left to really explore. Yeah, I've been waiting for this game here. Oops. It's possible that may be the problem too. I really don't know what it is that's taking them so long to expand the game. It's not like they bailed. You know, I definitely have played early access games where the developers just give up and just walk off with the money. They obviously are not doing that, but I don't really think they're updating it in the right way. Honestly, if they just had like a just like a static mode, I think that would really benefit the game quite a bit. I've played other games with really bad run variety too, like Remy Lore. The combat in that game was actually pretty good for like an overhead, like isometric style game. Like I thought the combat was pretty damn good, but the run variety was terrible. The only thing is a lot like Bloody Spell, and the only thing you could really change was just whatever items you got. And, you know, what spells were on the items. That was, like, the only run variety there was at all. The level chunks and the enemy variety was very low. So, I beat it, like, 20 times or something, and I just decided that I was done. They need to not do that with this game, because the combat is so good. They just need to make a better surrounding package. Yeah, I've been waiting for this to be, 60 FPS. I mean, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like it seems like it's decent, but it just doesn't feel good at 30 FPS. And they gave me a review key for this, and I'm just sitting here waiting for them to unlock it. They've been saying the same like copy paste stuff about how it's going to be available in a future update. It's been like months since they updated this game. Really odd, and like I played the demo for it before they gave me the review key, and it ran fine. I really don't understand why they capped it at 30. It ran perfectly fine on my rig, and I don't have, like, the best computer out there by a long shot. And I had no issues with it at all, so I don't understand why that's happening. I even posted in their thread. I thanked them for the key, but I didn't really think it was a good idea for me to show the game running at 30 FPS when that's going to be the first thing that everybody complains about. And it's a very valid complaint, especially now. Like, I look at there's this channel that runs, he basically does a lot of frame rate analyses for Switch games and stuff, and games get written off pretty fast if they're 30 FPS, especially if they're ports. Like Team Sonic Racing, I hear that game is pretty good, but it runs at 30 FPS on the Switch. So why would you buy that over Fast RMX or Mario Kart, both of which run at a lock 60? No, I don't want to like ruin the key opportunity that they gave me by showing it at 30 FPS, and I thought it would be like something that they would do soon. It's been ages, and they still haven't like updated the game at all. Yeah, I think the console port is supposed to be getting some kind of exclusive content or something. I wonder if there's anything interesting coming out next month, because the only thing I really am planning on buying is Bloodstained, and I applied for a review key for that, so I may not even need to pay for that. I think I looked earlier, there really wasn't anything interesting. Oh, I played the shit out of Igavania games when I was a teenager. Pretty much through all of high school, and a little bit after I graduated. I did like everything in those games. I had like 100% files. I kind of wish they had kind of modernized the combat a little more, but if it's anything like the other ones, I will still enjoy it. But I think they're trying to like make a brand out of it, or a franchise, so they probably don't want to diversify too far from the Igavania formula in the first game, which makes sense. You know, if it actually sells, then maybe they can diversify it later on. Yeah, they're basic, but I really like Metroidvanias. I especially like melee combat ones. Guacamelee was like perfect for me, but that game kind of goes into the... It has the problem where the platforming is harder than the combat. The combat is actually quite easy, especially if you have any like experience in any other action game. The combat's like dirt easy, but the games feel like really imbalanced. You have to be like a really good like platformer and like a beat 'em up player to really enjoy those games. Otherwise, one element or the other is going to piss you off. I feel they went too far in the opposite direction in Guacamelee 2. Like, just to get like the good ending, they made you do like this Kaizo Mario type stuff, and I just didn't like the game enough to bother doing that. I felt like they could have like made the platforming a little easier and then made the combat a little harder. I think the game would have felt a little bit more balanced. But I had like no trouble with any fight in that game at all, and then the platforming was like a nightmare sometimes. I just don't have any Therns. I just don't have any I don't have that many videos of me playing Igavanias on the channel because I didn't have the equipment at the time. But I played those games to death. I really liked them. Whoa, what is this? This looks pretty cool. Oh, they don't have any like footage or anything. I like the art style, I'm just not sure how the combat looks. It's a roguelite. Yeah, sure, I'll add that to my wish list. Oh yeah, this looks pretty legit. Huh. Kind of pissed off the Switch port of Bloodstained is only 30 FPS. I can't really see why that game would be pushing the hardware. Especially since they were going to have it on Vita initially, and they had to cancel it because Sony stopped producing the cartridges for the games. So how the hell was that going to run on Vita if it runs on the Switch at 30 FPS? And the Switch is like 5 times more powerful than the Vita. I really would love to see if they had like a prototype of the Vita version. It must have run at like 20 frames per second or something. I don't know, maybe they got a bad porting studio or something. I was really wanting to get that game physical on the Switch, but I saw 30 FPS and noped out of there. I'm really glad there were channels that like cover pretty much all the Switch games and they just show raw gameplay and you can see like how the performance is, because man, the port quality on the Switch games is like it's just as bad as the Vita, if not worse, because there's more games. They already have like 3,000 games or something on on the Switch, and most of them are like really bad phone games. And June's looking pretty barren for me. I think I'm probably just going to only be playing Bloodstained. I don't think there's anything else. I'm sure they'll have some shadow drops at E3 in a few weeks, but... And the summer's going to be pretty barren for me, so I'm probably going to try to upgrade my GPU during the summer with my Patreon and ad funds if I can. In July, I'll be doing Ninja Warriors again, and then there's... Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which I might get. I need to know more about like the customization and stuff. The frame rate looks pretty terrible in the videos. I wish it was just on PC. instead of on Switch. But that, and then Astral Chain in August is pretty much what I'm going to be doing next. But June in particular, I think people are going to be really bored with my videos because I'm really not going to be doing anything new but that one game. I'm pretty much going to be coasting by on just like, I don't know, whatever early access games I have getting updated. It seems like they pretty much have killed support for Dynasty Warriors 9 finally, so I won't have that to fall back on either. Which is fine. I'm definitely burnt out on playing that game, but it's kind of sad. They did support it for like almost a year and a half. That's pretty crazy, especially for a game with such a bad reception. They definitely tried to fix as much as they could, but I guess they had to be put onto other projects or something. There's supposed to be some big like Dynasty Warriors announcement this year, so maybe that's what they're working on. Yeah, I think it's kind of like a Dragon Ball Xenoverse situation where they have like a skeleton crew working on it, and then maybe they decided they needed to reallocate them on something else to get other games out. Also, the DLC is like ridiculously overpriced, and it turns off a lot of people from even looking at what it is. So maybe maybe it just wasn't giving them a good return of investment. I can't imagine it was. And the store pages for Dynasty Warriors 9 do a real piss poor job of like explaining that the game actually doesn't have like $400 of DLC. Like more than half of that is just the character passes for the free version. But to the untrained eye, the game looks like it has like a train simulator amount of DLC, and that turns people off. I'm not even sure if making the game free to play really benefited them. I'm sure they got some sales out of it, but they probably lost a lot of potential money from people looking at how much DLC there is and being misguided. Yeah, I don't see jack shit on here. Let me go ahead and check the Switch store, and then I'll play something else before I go. I want to know more about Astral Chain. I find it weird that it's only 3 months away, and they just put out a trailer and like the cover art for it. That's it. I don't know if that means that they're gonna delay it or what, but they need to like up the marketing on that. They're not even doing a drip feed at this point. There's just straight up no information. I feel like by now I should have some kind of general idea of how the combat is going to be like. I mean, you can get kind of a basic idea from the little bit of footage they announced at that direct, but that's it. I mean, I'm interested in it just because of the pedigree of the developer, and I like pretty much everything else they've made, but man, for a game exactly 3 months away, they haven't done a good job marketing it. Like, absolutely no information. Not even, like, stuff from, like, a Famitsu, which, you know, those usually have very informative, information. Like, just about how the game works and some of the mechanics and stuff. Like, that kind of stuff really sells me on a game. Ideally, I would like gameplay that conveys both of those things, but if I can at least get just some text to read, then, that definitely gets me to push towards actually buying something. I was kind of looking at Dauntless, but I don't know. The only hunting game I've really stuck with was Tokiden. I played the shit out of all the Tokiden games. I thought that those were the right balance between, like God Eater fast and then like kind of Monster Hunter methodical. And hitboxes were actually quite fair too, and nothing was really an HP sponge once you learned how to build your character properly. Monster Hunter's just too slow for me, and God Eater Just I don't like the dumb AI and how they don't actually help. I want to try God Eater 3, but I might want to wait for the Switch version. I might get that in July, actually. The only thing coming out in July that I care about is this and Ninja Warriors. And I want to try to pay off... I don't know if I can pay off Ninja Warriors. I would have to get the Japanese physical release. And that's going to be like $60. I don't know if I want to pay that much for that game. I'm sure they'll have like a bunch of Megatons and stuff at E3 in a few weeks, but man, right now it's just like not much I'm really interested in covering. Rain 5 is apparently a really shitty shmup, so I'm not going to get that. Yeah, I don't think my summer forecast is going to change at all, unless they announce some kind of shadow drop or something. Nintendo does tend to do that with their directs, so they might have some kind of smaller game or something that I would really like. Only thing I really want from the direct is for them to say something about Bayonetta 3. I find it really weird that this game is coming out in 3 months, and they've shown gameplay. Like I said, it's been like not even drip feed level. Like basically have not said anything about the game in months, but this has full gameplay and a confirmed release date. Bayonetta 3 got announced like a year and a half ago, and there hasn't been a single second of gameplay. I wonder if they got stuck in like development hell, or they like remade the game or something. I know that they did the same thing with Bayonetta 2, but I definitely remember there being a pretty decent amount of gameplay at this point. Bayonetta 2 is a real bad drip feed too. I think a lot of that was just because the Wii U was already pretty much a dead console, and they knew that it wasn't going to move any copies. But you think, I mean, it was a pretty big megaton for them to announce that. I mean, they paid to have it announced at the Game Awards. That was like one of the only things from that Game Awards that hasn't been released yet. But there's been nothing. And I'm personally concerned about that game because Bayonetta 2 wasn't a bad game at all. I mean, it was still better than pretty much anyone else can do in that genre besides Capcom, but it had a lot of problems, and a lot of it was just stupid stuff that they added in the second one that no one wanted, like not being able to do air combos at all, and then the whole Umbran Climax thing, pretty much devolving the game into a button masher. So I want to see more on that game. I want to see proof that they're actually going to listen to the feedback and fix it. Because I definitely still played that game a lot, but it wasn't as good as the first one. In the same way, it was like better than the first one in a lot of ways too. The pacing especially was much better. Like less mini games and stuff like that. It was mostly just straight combat. It felt more like an arcade game, but you still had the exploration element where you could find secrets and stuff. But like from the unlockables and like the imbalanced combat, like the humanoid bosses being basically invincible outside of Witch Time, and then like everyone but the most generic enemy like not letting you air combo at all. That kind of stuff really killed the replay value for me. So I hope this game is not going to be like that. I know that I think it's I don't know who the director is, but it's like his first oh, it's the guy from Nier. I'm not sure if that's really a good thing either. I hear that game, everything but the story was not that great, and the story was grimdark, depressing. So I had no interest in it. But it seems like a pretty big project for the guy. I mean, it's probably not going to have as much of a story focus. So maybe they'll have a better balanced gameplay experience. I mean, it looks cool, but there's just nothing about it. Anyway, let me see if I feel like playing something else. I would hope so. I mean, they're not really doing a good job on selling that game at all. They're basically just banking on it selling because it's from a prestigious developer in the genre, but I feel like they obviously want like people who aren't hardcore Platinum fans, especially since a lot of their stuff has not been on Nintendo consoles. It's pretty much just been the Bayonetta games and Wonderful 101, the latter of which is still stuck on the Wii U, so no one played that game. I feel like they need to get people who didn't play Bayonetta to be interested in it, and they're really doing a shitty job of that right now. They're also doing a bad job with Bayonetta 3 as well. Even if there is some kind of development issue, they should have said something about it by now. It's like borderline vaporware status. I think they said like they've said like one thing about it. They said the development was progressing smoothly. And I'm like, well, if it was, I'm pretty sure there would have been like some semblance that it's an actual playable video game by now. Like, I'm fairly certain there would be something. I want to try out 144 FPS on this, and I think I'm going to crash, go to bed. I'm still kind of tired from the convention. That's kind of good though if it's going to be a less expensive summer for me, because then I can actually focus on getting some channel upgrades done. This does not have net play because the developers, he made this by himself. He basically tells people to use Parsec. I'm actually friends with the developer. I provided some minor translation help. I don't know if you could call it translation help. It was more like I helped him with the grammar because he's not a native English speaker. He's from South America. I actually provided some help with some of the sentences and stuff in the game to make them better English, and he gave me this game for free because I helped him out. Obviously, I would have bought it anyways. It's the best beat 'em up on Steam. That's not a port, but he basically said he doesn't have the resources to do it. But he said that he's tried Parsec with people like across the country, and it's worked fine. So maybe I will try to arrange that with him at some point. Obviously, there's a it's not like there's a language barrier. He speaks perfectly good English. It's just he wanted it to be a little bit more grammatically correct, so he asked me to help with that. But it's more the time zone difference. I think he's like 4 or 5 hours ahead of me, so it's kind of hard to coordinate with somebody like that. But I will look into doing that. Yeah, I know they're done with Grand Blue. I think that was kind of like a Metal Gear Rising situation, where they basically just did the gameplay and that was it. Metal Gear Rising was kind of like a Hail Mary type thing, because not Koei, but Konami was smart enough to realize they suck at making action games like that. It wouldn't have been anywhere near as good. So I think they made that game in like a year and a half, which is crazy. It's not the deepest character action game out there, but it is a mechanically solid game. It doesn't really have the depth to really play it more than a couple times, and there's definitely some balance issues in the higher difficulties from what I remember, but a year and a half for a game of that quality is crazy. I think with Grand Blue, they just like designed the combat or something. A lot of the clickbait sites tried to spin it like they got fired or something. It was mostly just they finished their work. I guess they were just contracted to do the combat, and then the rest is going to be side games. Astral Chain's got to be near gold by now, unless they're going to randomly like delay it or something. I think they would have said something by now. It's literally 3 months away tomorrow, so I don't think they would really delay it at this point. The Babylon Fall game, yeah, I don't know how far along that is. I wonder when exactly, where they were in development when they announced Bayonetta 3. I know with Bayonetta 2, they weren't that far along when they announced that game either, but it was still farther enough that within a few months there was definitely a little drip feed of gameplay. You can find the Streets of Rage remake pretty much anywhere. There's a lot of sites to find it now, and it actually has been updated by the fans over the past few years. I think Bomber Games themselves disbanded, but the community has been updating it. I still have the old one back when they got the C&D letter. I need to find the updated version. But the Sega of that time and the Sega of now is very different. They don't really care about fan games anymore, and especially for IPs like that were dormant. That was what really pissed a lot of people off about the C&D for the remake, because they hadn't done anything with Streets of Rage at all. The most they had done is just a couple ports, and that was it. In terms of like a new game or anything, even like appearing in other games, that was basically just a dead franchise. So they really burnt a lot of goodwill by doing that. But now they've openly said, at the very least with like Sonic games and stuff, that they don't care anymore as long as there's no profit being made. So no straight up charging for it, no asking for donations. No, they definitely have some good people running the company now. And I guess at the time they had some pissed off suits that thought it was going to make them lose money or somehow, even though they weren't making anything for people to buy. There's nothing. Unless you count ports and stuff, but I don't really see how a remake would really affect sales of stuff like that. I'm fairly certain they got him. I really think that they have him as a musician. They're just not wanting to say anything about it for some reason. I think it would be pretty misguided for them to do that. I mean, Streets of Rage is a very mechanically solid series. At least the last two games. The first one is pretty much just a basic beat 'em up. There's nothing special about it. The only thing people really fondly remember about the first one is just the music and the crazy Super Joy attack where the police car just fires a rocket launcher. Those are like the only things that really get fondly remembered from the first game. But the other two are very mechanically solid. So it's not like it couldn't get by with not having him do the music, but I think like letting an indie studio do it at all and revive something that had been dead for almost 20 years, actually over 20 years, about 25 years actually by the time it comes out, I think that they'll probably pay him to do it. He's just not legally able to say it right now. And I don't have any inside information either. It just seems like they're pulling out all the stops with that game by letting an indie developer that actually knows how to make a beat 'em up, because they could have easily just gotten some random no-name like European studio to make it. But they actually got Guard Crush Games, and not only have those guys, they made Streets of Fury X, which is I think the second best original beat 'em up on Steam. Besides, after this, they also are very hardcore FGC players as well, so they know how those mechanics tick and stuff. My only concern with Streets of Rage 4 is that right now there's all these crazy combos and stuff, and there's no dash or run. I really don't understand why it's designed like that. I guess they just want to make it more like the other games, but even then, Streets of Rage 3 had dashing, which is what made it a lot faster than the second game. The second game, Skate was the only one that could dash, and he was definitely one of the weaker characters, so you didn't really want to use him that much in most cases. I don't really get why it's designed the way it currently is. At least the last build that people were able to play publicly, there's no like movement mechanics at all. I suggested to them back when it was officially announced. Keep in mind, I was a beta tester on Streets of Fury EX for the last two updates they did. I got those updates like a couple months before they were released. I gave him some feedback. The two guys that run Guard Crush, I gave them some feedback that like maybe if they don't want to have the dash and the run in the base game, it should be like an unlockable thing, like kind of like in this game where there's different ways to play it. Like when you start, you can't like change the speed. You don't have any unlockables or anything like that, but you can kind of tweak it. You can play the game in different ways later on. Streets of Fury EX was very much that way too. That was pretty much just a basic linear beat 'em up. But once you started unlocking things, you could really tweak it and have fun with it. I think that would be the best way they could do it, but it seems like everybody is really just wanting them to just straight up adding running and dashing. So I'm curious to see what they'll do. I have not been offered any kind of beta testing opportunity at all. I guess because they have an actual publisher now, instead of it just being a straight indie game, they can't easily just throw a code at me. Which is a shame. I would love to help that game. I definitely have I've helped out on a lot of games like this in the past, but I'm not sure what's going on there. No, I don't have anything. When they announced it, I contacted them about being a beta tester, and I haven't heard anything back, so... Nothing I've helped with in the development, like beta testing or anything, has been like a game of that scale, so... There's obviously a lot of complications and stuff that come with that. Actually, the biggest thing I've worked on was probably Assault Spy. I was a beta tester on that. NISA's not the biggest company either, but they are, you know, they are official business and everything, so that's pretty cool. I don't really think there's much overlap between those games, honestly, at least in terms of, like, demographic. Obviously, anybody interested in Streets of Rage 4 is pretty much going to be people my age, like, very late 20s, early 30s. Those are really going to be the only people interested in that kind of thing. People who actually remember things like beat-em-ups and couch co-op and stuff. I think Astral Chain has a more broader appeal, at least from what little we've seen. I don't think they're expecting, like, teenagers to go out and buy Streets of Rage 4. It's pretty much old fart gamers like me that are going to be the only ones that are going to care about that game. Yeah, exactly. People like that. People who have, like, a brother or a friend or significant other to play it with. Man, they're so hard to fight. You have no room. I don't remember all the parry timings. Play a little bit of the first level. Don't have the parry timings anymore. Used to have like parry timings down for like everything. I haven't really played this game in a while. 144 FPS seems pretty nice. Uh, 2D games are pretty much the only ones where 144 FPS is actually noticeable in my opinion, so it's definitely welcome that they he added this. I have videos on all the hidden moves. You're welcome. Yeah, this game's great. The only real complaint I had with this game when it came out is that the runs are very long, and the paths, the extra paths, I feel are like the weakest element of the game because you still have to go through the 2 longest levels every time. Like, that was kind of the same problem. This game has the same problem that Metal Slug 3 had, where they added all the cool paths and stuff so that, you know, it wasn't completely linear, and there was more replay value. There were more reasons to play the game again, to see different content. But the problem with Metal Slug 3 was that the last level's like half an hour long. So the choices you make in the paths, they don't have any impact on anything. And it just makes the last level even longer if you take the longer paths. And the game's like, I think the score run for Metal Slug 3 is like 2 hours long or something. That's just a ridiculous length for an arcade game. And that's kind of the same problem this has. You always have to go through Death Island and the final level. There's no shortcuts. So, very much like Metal Slug 3, you basically just take the shortest path to the end. And that was my biggest issue with this game when it launched, was that it did get a little bit repetitive, and it wasn't anything due to the combat. The combat itself is great, it's just the game is really long, and you have to go through 2 really long gauntlet levels each time you play. But since then, he's added, you know, time attack, score attack, and survival mode, so it's not as much of an issue anymore. I'd border on it saying it's a non-issue at this point, because you can just play those other modes. You know, if you don't want to play for an hour or an hour and a half, depending on your skill level, then you can just play those modes. So I think he did an exemplary job of fixing that issue. But if he does make another game in this, if he does want to make this a franchise, I hope that maybe he'll keep the path system, but make it so that you can get to the end significantly faster. Maybe have just like the last level be the same, and not have 2 levels be static every time. And that would really improve the replay value, in my opinion. Yeah, I have a hard time like replaying Metal Slug 3 because the last level is just so long. I've seen some people want it to just be split in half, like have it be like 2 levels, but then you would lose all your consumables and stuff, like your grenades. So that wouldn't be good either. I think the last level just should have been shorter, or the path should have had more of an impact on how you get through the end. Like maybe skip some parts or something. They are supposed to be making a new Metal Slug. They've quietly announced one. There's no gameplay yet, but I hope if they keep the path system that they'll improve on it and make it mean a little more. I'm not really a big fan of those games, honestly. I don't like all the fan service being shoved down your throat. Besides all the fan service, I don't like how small the movesets are, but Burst Renewal, in particular, has pretty decent combat. I like the parry system. That's kind of a cool way to get around people just doing infinite combos on everything. But there's just not enough moves to keep it interesting. Yeah, everyone has like a really tiny moveset, and they all start to really blend together after a while. And people always said that was a problem with like the earlier Dynasty Warriors games. Everything, all the attacks kind of followed a template, but man, Senran Kagura is way worse. You really only have like the specials, which are basically all the same thing with different hitboxes, and then their basic neutral triangle attack. That's the only thing that really separates any of them. Senran Kagura is a franchise. It doesn't feel like they know what they're doing. They make like all these random spin-offs and stuff, and I'm sure, given that it's probably easier to focus on the fan service when you don't actually have to play a high-octane action game. I'm sure they do pretty well, but they need to like make one that actually has good combat and more than 3 moves. They're fun to play in small doses, but they pale in comparison to anything else. I have Burst Renewal. I need to go back and finish it. Maybe I'll work on that once I get my capture card back on Sunday, but I have a really hard time playing it. I don't like all the fan service, and there's just not enough moveset variety. Yeah, I can't play any of that garbage either, but I can see why they do it. I mean, it's not like the beat-em-ups are very mechanically robust anyway, so might as well go all out with the fan service. I just don't particularly care for it, and I feel like with how many games they've made, they should be at a better spot gameplay-wise. Oni-chan-Bara Z2 Chaos is a better game. In terms of the moveset variety and the combat, the boss fights are definitely way better in Senran Kagura. It definitely has that on it. And the bosses don't stagger to anything in Oni-chan-Bara, so you basically just have to learn how to fill the screen with crap and kill them quickly, which is fun in its own right, but you can't use the combo system on them. But it's an objectively better game. I haven't really bothered with the harder difficulties on this because the game is already too long for me as it is, so I mostly just play on normal and hard. I don't really have any interest in the other ones. I forgot where the apple was. It's been too long. Alright, I'll probably continue that tomorrow. Seems like it's running fine at 144 FPS, which is nice. Basically, in the patch notes, he said he upgraded to a 144 Hz monitor, and I guess it must have been easy for him to do. I don't know why else he would do that otherwise. Yeah, I know. I just not really trying to be a tryhard right now. I'm just playing for fun. Alright, I don't know if I feel like doing anything else. I think I'm gonna try to get to bed early. I didn't get sick from the con, but I still come back like very tired. It's a lot of walking, a lot of you know, social interaction. There's constant crowds, so that gets kind of draining too. So I think I'm just gonna take it easy for the next few days. I'll do half of a Corridor of Time run. How about that? And then that'll end tonight. But yeah, the next couple months look pretty barren for me. I don't really think anything they announce at E3 is going to release in that window, besides just like maybe some small shadow drop stuff from Nintendo, like the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. That was a shadow drop. But I don't really think they'll announce anything that will be coming out in the summer, so I'm going to attempt to future-proof my computer this summer if I can. I'm aiming to get maybe an RTX 2060, and I think I would be set for a while. I don't really play anything that needs it just yet, but the next generation's coming up fast, and I know that even now, some of the PS4 ports that are coming out on PC, like Yakuza Kiwami 2, like my computer can barely run it at 60, so I may take the opportunity to do that this summer. Depending on what happens after E3, but I'm really only covering small stuff, like not any full-priced games for pretty much the rest of the summer until July. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and then Astral Chain, but I'm kind of on the fence about both. Marvel has more gameplay shown. The frame rate looks really bad. I don't know if that's just poorly optimized or something, but I wish it was not on the Switch. It's probably a good platform for it because it'll be portable and have co-op and stuff, but it doesn't really seem like one of those games that the Switch can run very easily. But I'll look past that and play it. The combat actually looks pretty fun, as long as the loot and stuff is interesting. Alright, I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop there. I'm getting pretty tired. Tomorrow, I don't really have anything planned, so I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I might do some random stuff. I don't have access to my capture card until Sunday, most likely. My friend needs it tomorrow, and then we're both going to an FGC meetup on Saturday, and he's going to need it then too. And he has a pretty busy schedule sometimes. I don't really think I'm going to be able to get it back from him before then. So Sunday is when I'll be doing console stuff again. I want to do Rolling Gunner, Novice Mode attempts, Crystal Crisis. I have a couple other things I want to do on the Switch, but I don't have the means to right now, so it's probably just going to be random stuff. Like I said, I don't have anything on my radar at all until Bloodstained comes out, and I don't really know how much I'd even do with that game with the channel anyway. There's going to be a lot of people playing it, so I don't think it'll be like a lot of the other games I cover, where I'm the only one explaining the mechanics and stuff. I may not even like stream it much. I'll try to. I'm not getting it on the Switch because it's only 30 FPS there, so I hope you guys will understand. I just don't have anything major going on right now. I've been pretty transparent about what I will be doing, but it's pretty much just going to be one game a month until actually no, two games in July, Marvel and then Ninja Warriors, and then August will be, what's it called, Astral Chain. But we'll see. E3 is right around the corner, so I'm hoping for some good indie games. A lot of the AAA stuff they announced there is not my kind of game at all, so I hope that they'll have some smaller stuff like this that is mostly gameplay oriented. So I tend to not be disappointed with E3 because I have a more open mind towards games than many people do, at least in terms of action games and stuff. I'm willing to play stuff like this. It doesn't have like amazing graphics or anything. The gameplay is fun. So until then, it's going to be a pretty chill time for me, so we'll see what happens. I will catch you guys probably after lunch, most likely. Peace.